Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos and welcome to this full clear of the Horrific Vision of Stormwind with 5 masks active. This is as a Windwalker monk with fairly good gear, although not very good Windwalker weapons. And this was done 2 weeks ago now, so the last time Stormwind was active before this week. So the madnesses are slightly different than the ones that are currently active right now, but otherwise it's the same Horrific Vision that's active this week. So I'll try and talk about a few things that you may not know about Horrific Visions. For instance, right now up here in the top right of the screen, you can see a little crystal over there. And you may have seen these in your runs, these odd crystals all over the place. And a lot of people don't actually know how those things work. So there are 2 of those in every single dungeon, or in every single Horrific Vision area. So the Tainted area, and the Lost area, and the Corrupted area. So there's 10 total in the entire place. And you can click on them to pick them up. And then before finishing the Horrific Vision, you can turn them in to an ethereal guy, slightly different place in Stormwind and Orgrimmar, and he'll give you between 20 and 42 mementos per crystal. More mementos per crystal, the more crystals you turn in. So if you turn in a full 10 crystals, you pick up a nice 425 mementos, whereas if you only turn in 1 crystal, you only get 20. So here I'm killing Mulane here, who spawns in that building. He's a 50% chance to spawn in that building, and he gives you a 10% verse buff, so very much worth killing if he does show up. If he is not active, there will instead be a bear spirit in the building next to where the ethereal is. I'll point that out when I walk by it in a little bit, and that's a haste buff. So it's worth figuring out which of those 2 is active and getting that buff every time. Okay, so here's the ethereal building up over here, and here's where the haste buff would be in that little building there, the one with the bear. One thing I also did there was I identified which potion was the poison potion and which one were not. The way that worked is at the very start of the dungeon, or the very start of the Horrific Vision rather, in the corner in the right, there's a dead body, and next to that dead body there's a little note, and there's also a potion there. Whatever color that potion is the poison potion, and that corresponds to a given good potion as well, the one that will restore your sanity. I actually have a weak aura in the description here that's really valuable, and you just click on whichever one the potion is, or the poison is, and it will then tell you what the sanity restore one is. Another buff building that we've just passed here is that building just back, so it was the one, it's right behind now, behind where I was, and it's like a bomb-making, mine-making building. If that door is open, you can actually do a little maze in that building and get a 10% damage buff if you can get to the end of it, and that is pretty valuable. If that one's not up, then instead there will be a guild bank in the trade district that you can kill, and that will give you crit buff instead. So one of those 2 will be active in any given run. I usually go for whichever one I can get. It's especially good if it's the first zone you go to, because then you'll have it for the whole run. But either way, it's worth grabbing so you can have it for Umbric. Okay, it looks like this run purple is the good potion. You can see they're restoring 100 sanity. That 100 sanity restore gets more and more valuable as you start doing more and more of these, the higher your cloak level is, the higher value you're getting from restoring 100 sanity, right? You're getting more time for that, and that is really useful. At this point, this run was done with a rank 11 cloak, so I don't have the proc yet, but I do have the 65% sanity reduction. Oops. That's embarrassing there. You just try not to run into those guys. They'll stun you. But besides that, yeah, okay, I'm collecting here some of the black liquid there. So I'm actually collecting all the buff potions as well here. I'm collecting all of them in this run. You don't need to do this. You can get just the sanity restore potions. You should always be on the lookout for whatever color restores sanity once you've identified that. You don't need to get all the buff ones. They're fairly small buffs, but it can be worthwhile, especially if you're playing something like Windwalker. The healing and defensive bonus ones are actually fairly useful compared to some of the tankier specs, Havoc Demon Hunter or whatever. Probably doesn't need them quite as much, or the tank specs. But Windwalker, you can actually kind of die to just auto attacks in a 5 mask run. They do quite a bit of damage. So one thing that I've also done here is I've eaten Ghastly Goulash. That's the food buff that I have right now. That is food you can buy from the auction house or make with questionable meat, and it restores 2% of your health every second while you're in a Horrific Vision. Very valuable food. There are some other Horrific Visions only food that you can find that are useful. I haven't actually triggered this thing. I need to go plant one more explosive. All right, I figured it out. My favorites, so I like the Ghastly Goulash as the buff food. There are other ones though. There's ones that give you movement speed or crowd control duration reduction. Both of those you can have an argument for using them as well. In my opinion, though, the best value is on that healing one. So Ghastly Goulash, that's my favorite one. There's also food that you can eat that restores sanity. That's on a 3-minute cooldown, but it restores 100 sanity. And again, that's getting more and more valuable as our cloak gets better because 100 sanity is becoming worth more and more. And there's a food you can get that turns you, it's basically like a stealth food. It turns you into a Kathir enemy, and you can walk, you can't walk right on top of stuff, but you can basically sneak by the whole place. So that's a useful one to have access to as well. I don't personally use it, but you can, and there are some good strategies that involve that. Another thing that's worth noting here is Gift of the Titans. So Gift of the Titans is that buff you get where you get a huge amount of haste and also become immune to sanity drain. That is actually on a 1-minute cooldown. So after it falls off, it will not trigger again for another minute. You can actually track that internal cooldown, and the weak aura that I'm going to have in the description here will do that in addition to a lot of other useful functions. And so that can be really useful for you because, like this thing here, you can see, right? Like I just stood in the blade flurry, and if I didn't have that sanity loss prevention, I would have actually been in quite a bit of trouble because there was the overlap here with the split personality. So actually, these are the same madnesses that are active this week as well in these areas. This is a really tough combination of madnesses in these ones, Leadenfoot and split personality. So one thing that's really valuable is taking a little bit of extra time, just AFKing a little bit even if you need to, waiting 20 seconds and then killing a mob so that you can get your Gift of the Titans proc after it's off cooldown. That can be really, it's not guaranteed if it's off cooldown that it'll proc, but it becomes, like, you can basically force it to happen, and that can be really, really, really helpful for making sure that you don't, there are a lot of these mini bosses and bosses are a lot easier with a Gift of the Titans proc. There's, unavoidable sanity loss, or close to unavoidable sanity loss, or sanity loss that can be, you can get RNG'd with split personality or Leadenfoot, and this can be really helpful for that. Leadenfoot is also something that, as a Windwalker in particular, it's really annoying that your Whirling Dragon Punch actually causes you to gain stacks too. So that's a fun little bonus. Another thing that's worth noting is you won't see me Tiger's Lusting to clear the stacks in this run. That's because they actually changed Tiger's Lust to be effective against Leadenfoot after I made this video. So before I made the video, Tiger's Lust and some shapeshifting and that kind of stuff didn't actually remove Leadenfoot, and then they changed it so that those do. But with that change, it's actually quite a lot easier to play Monk than it was at the time of this recording. Leadenfoot it's a really tough affix, or madness rather, if you aren't thinking about it. Like if you're just holding your W key forward, you actually are very likely to get yourself into big trouble. But if you plan for it, then it can actually be counterplayed on most bosses, most of the mini bosses, like the hardest ones, you can almost always handle. You do have to be thinking about it. The main advice I have for dealing with Leadenfoot is don't move unless you have to. And move, as little as possible. Move with like a few stacks of Leadenfoot and then stop. Try not to go above 5 stacks of Leadenfoot, because it's almost always faster to get from point A to point B by stutter stepping than by just brute forcing through the Leadenfoot. There's another one of those odd crystals I mentioned, but I'm not worrying too much about them on this run because I knew the timer would maybe be fairly tight. This was one of my earlier 5 mask clears. So I was still not taking the time to just grab all the odd crystals I could find, because odd crystals are fairly inefficient in a high mask run because they don't scale up with the amount of masks. Collecting odd crystals is actually a good way to make it so that if you're doing like a 4 mask clear, you can still get a lot of mementos and a competitive amount with like doing a 5 mask clear. Okay, this is that's not good there. So you can see I got hit by the Seek and Destroy. Unfortunately, I have some bad overlaps happening here, where I'm getting overlaps between the split personality and the Seek and Destroy Vanish thing. So one thing that I should be doing to play around that is Transcendencing. So you'll see I've got my Transcendence dropped right now. And now I can do that if Shaw would actually land on me during the Vanish and the split personality. That would have been a good way to avoid using my cheat death on this fight. End of the day, this isn't an awful place to use your cheat death. Shaw is one of the more dangerous parts of Stormwind. Again, you don't look at the eyeballs. That's the main thing to do when you're fighting him. And then he'll always move. Those 3 swirlies in the intermission will always be aimed at you. They'll always like he'll start far away and then he'll just move close and closer to you to where you were when it started. So you can dodge it just once and then you're going to be out of where that 3rd one goes. So that's the Old Town done. Now we are on our way to Trade District and then Mage Quarter. There are a lot of good options for what. Like, you can do this Heroic Vision in a couple of different orders. The main ones I like are Dwarven and then Old Town, and then Trade District and then Mage Quarter. That's what I'm doing in this video. You can also do Mage Quarter first, though, so you can go, like, Trade District, Mage Quarter, and then teleport back and do Dwarven District, Old Town. The main thing to avoid is don't travel between Trade District and Old Town. That's inefficient. You should... Because then you're going to have to like backtrack to get to whichever other side you didn't do yet. So try not to do that. I mean, you could go from Old Town to Trade District, but it's better to just teleport back to the Cathedral. There's always a teleporter back to the Cathedral after each zone, and it's efficient to use that to get back from both of the lost areas, given how far away they are from everything. And you just lose less sanity over time. Like, you effectively lose half as much sanity in the per second in the other place, in the Cathedral. Okay, so here's where the guild bank is. I'm not sure if I actually picked it up in this run. I think I might have. Let's see if I do. In the bank here, though, that's where the guild bank would be. I'm not sure if I remembered that it was going to be there, but it's a 10% crit buff, so that's quite valuable. Looks like I'm inching towards it. Yeah, okay, nice. Pretty sure that's where I'm going. Yeah, so guild bank in here, inside the Trade District. Little opulence guy. Doesn't really do much, no sanity loss mechanics or anything, just some damaging stuff. And you can kill this and you get 10% crit. Now, one of the reasons that I think it's worth going out of your way to get this is that there are some hard boss fights ahead here. So even if it's not like time efficient to get a buff like that for... Oh, I forgot to actually, I didn't pick up the buff there. Even if it's not like perfectly time efficient in terms of, you know, at this point, since I'm already halfway through the run, maybe 10% crit isn't worth going that far out of my way for in terms of how much it would speed up the trash. The fact that it makes the bosses easier is pretty important. So I advise getting that in both Orgrimmar and Stormwind. In Orgrimmar, you should do it unless you've already killed Rexxar, and in Stormwind, you should do it pretty much always. There's always a hard boss ahead of you in Stormwind, so I would always grab those things. Okay, so now I'm just trying to farm a Gift of the Titans proc, so that I can use that to go and kill the mini-boss in this area. The mini-boss in this area is fairly obnoxious, so I try and make sure I have a proc for him, because otherwise, as a single player, you have to do like line of sight shenanigans to avoid sanity loss, and I'd rather just not bother with that. So I'd rather wait until I can proc Gift of the Titans, and then go and immediately charge in and start fighting him. Because then you can do, you don't have to worry about kicking the Agonizing Torment. With 5 masks active, you're taking a huge... So there's my Gift of the Titans proc. Now I'm going in, and I blow my cooldowns, try and kill this thing before it kills me. This is a very lethal mob because it also casts Convert on you, which makes you immune to healing. So after the second Agonizing Torment here, it would cast Convert on me, and that would make me healing immune for like 30 seconds or until I dropped combat. And so for that reason, I pretty much always just use cooldowns and try and kill that thing as fast as possible. And yeah, I'm just picking up my potions here, getting some sanity restored. You see I don't have my cheat death anymore, but I still have 3 sanity restore orbs. And that should be enough. It's actually, like, one of the things about Stormwind is you kind of don't need any sanity orbs until you get to the Mage Quarter, and then you kind of need like 2 for that quarter. Ideally, you often end up needing to use one halfway through the Mage Quarter, and you want to use one before Umbric. Especially pre-nerf Umbric, which this video was before Umbric got nerfed. Nowadays, he'll teleport 1 less time than he does in this video, but that was a really tough part. So here's the Chains of Servitude, and this boss is really... Yeah, like, he'll only ever cast 2 Chains of Servitude. You always just run away from those, and don't stay into those swirlies. If you have to get a Gift of the Titans proc, you can just let those Chains of Servitude hit you, that's fine. But otherwise, yeah, don't bother with doing that. We're capped on sanity again, thanks to Elite Extermination. Now we just gotta free all these slaves here. This is a really... this part is much more annoying, actually, if you're below 50% sanity. It's kind of lame, because then you'll be spawning these figments that put you in combat, and that can get you into trouble, so it's really nice to be above 50% sanity when you're actually opening these cages. One thing you also saw me do is I've already pulled all the trash that would be in this area, because I went right rather than left at the start. Stupid, there's stupid proc there of the fire breath ended up killing a rat and put me in combat for half a second, so it stopped my channel. And it procced my Gift of the Titans. That actually happens in Stormwind quite a lot, is Gift of the Titans gets procced from rats and stuff, little critters dying. So that, it can be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. Most of the rats aren't in great areas for Gift of the Titans, but there are a few in a couple spots, so it can be useful. Looks like I'm just checking here. Oh yeah, okay, nice. Some purple liquid. That'll 100 sanity restore. Again, that's quite a bit of time to get back onto your character there. And we just gotta open 2 more cages, and then we're done with this district. Now we've just got the Mage Quarter ahead of us. Mage Quarter, though, by far the most scary part of Stormwind. This is where most runs die. Or if a run is gonna go badly, it's almost always in the Mage Quarter. That's the hardest part of this place. So especially with Leadenfoot active, which it has been like forever in Stormwind, I cannot wait for a Stormwind without Leadenfoot active. Leadenfoot and Split Personality, actually a very rough combo here. You can see I'm just killing off one of those things before even entering. And before I go in, I'm gonna use one of my kebab food here. People attacked my pronunciation of that. It's got like an apostrophe in there, so it's not kebab, like it's not spelled like kebab, so I wanted to make a differentiation there, but whatever. K apostrophe B-A-B is the thing to search for on the auction house if you want that sanity restore food. It's most efficient to use it in the outside of the lost and corrupted areas because you're draining less sanity per second while you're eating it. So eating it right before zoning into a lost area, or one great time to use it as well is during RP. So if mobs are RPing, that's a really good time to use it. Like if you don't have an orb going into Illyria, it's useful to use while Illyria is doing her RP. Or if you don't have an orb, if in Orgrimmar in particular, there are a couple of mobs that do RP before you can fight them. That's a great time to eat one of those foods and restore some sanity, because you couldn't be doing anything better with your time anyways. As your cloak gets better, it'll just kind of be worth using them anytime if you're having a hard time in a run, because they'll give you so much extra time. This is an important mob to kill here, this Mind Twist Tendril. If you don't kill it, it will just stay in combat with you but not move, and that's really, really rough. It means you won't be able to orb, and it means that you'll permanently have to deal with Leadenfoot, which is really, really obnoxious. Okay, this guy has a couple of mechanics that are maybe not very well known. So there's the Rain of Fire that he's about to cast here. That's a sanity drain, and then he'll also do a Twisted Summons, and that can also drain sanity. So these Unstable Servants, when they explode, those swirlies they leave behind, those are sanity drain swirlies. So it's important to keep that in mind when you're fighting that guy. Otherwise, that one he's not hard, but there's some surprise sanity drain on there if you're not familiar with those mechanics. Kind of not the hardest part of the Mage Quarter, though. The hardest part of the Mage Quarter is Umbric and the mini-boss that we're about to fight up here. One thing to also keep in mind here is the Greater Void Elementals. They do that Void Buff at cast. That increases all your shadow damage taken, and it stacks. So it's important to kick that or stun it, or just make sure that you use a defensive if you have a couple stacks of that and things are channeling shadow damage on you. You can die by surprise in this area just to damage because of that, so that's something that happens as well. All right, so we've got 4 more seconds of Gift of the Titans here. Gift of the Titans, definitely helpful against this boss. There's the Chaos Breath. I'm about to spawn a Split Personality as well, so I move for a little bit, stop moving, and then we got a dodge here. We hit one of those swirlies, but outside from that one hit and another hit because of Whirling Dragon Punch, you can actually do a fairly good job here of avoiding. The main strategy, is just stutter step, right? Move slowly, and that can get you out of as many of those swirlies as possible. You really want to avoid hitting a Split Personality there. You can see I'm still in combat here because I'm playing a Windwalker monk. Windwalker monks have a great feature where they get to stay in combat. If the last ability they use on a mob was... If you're Fist of Furying when you exit combat, you instead just don't exit combat for 10 seconds. So that's a really fun thing to have with Leadenfoot active. A great piece of gameplay. There's a great Split Personality that really gives me a lot of options for how to get out of it. Split Personality, I feel like it spawns a little too often, or maybe it should have 2 exits instead of 1. I don't know. I'm all for difficult mechanics. I really do like them, but it feels like Split Personality sometimes just doesn't actually have all that much counterplay in a couple areas, and you just kind of have to AFK and wait for it to go away. That I don't know. I don't think it's the worst. I kind of prefer the high diff. I kind of prefer Stormwind even to Orgrimmar, because I have a little bit more fun in here where there's much more risk of dying than there is in Orgrimmar, and I like that. But the Leaden Foot Mage Quarter in particular is like, especially with split personalities, maybe a little bit over more annoyance than there needs to be. Like, I like the difficulty, but there's definitely some like frustratingly annoying bits about it. All right, so there you can see we still got 3 orbs here. I'm just gonna fire one off now rather than risking anything because I've got 3 orbs and there's just 2 mini bosses left. So I can literally use an orb, walk to Umbric, use an orb, fight Umbric, use an orb, fight Illyria at this point. It would be very greedy to try and hold on to that 3rd orb here. I could do that if I was trying to like, make a flex YouTube video about using only 1 orb or 2 orbs or whatever in Stormwind. It's definitely something that is possible, especially as your cloak gets better. Like, you're definitely not going to need orbs as your cloak levels up further. But it's not like once you are in this position, you should use those orbs. You don't get any bonus points for not using them. So you should just always find like, you can save your orbs for until near the end and then just use them very freely for like the last 3 pulls of the dungeon or whatever. That's the best way to use them if you happen to still have them at that point. Okay, here's Umbric. Umbric has been nerfed since this video, so he'll only teleport twice rather than once. That's a lot less brutal, but it's still a tough fight. You can see I've got a toy prepared here to stop him from teleporting a 3rd time. So Umbric, yeah, you have a couple of different casts on him. As a solo player, you can't interrupt all of them. One nice thing about orbing into him is that you can just let that first Entropic Missiles channel and it doesn't matter at all. And then that Tainted Polymorph comes out. That is something that's worth kicking, depending on the situation, right? Like, sometimes you're going to want to kick the Polymorph, and sometimes you don't want to kick the Polymorph because sometimes you'd rather kick the Entropic Missiles instead because you can't afford the sanity loss. Really, as a solo player, one thing to also do is potentially don't break the Frozen Storm until you have a kick ready. That can be, like, it can be pretty annoying to get caught here without a kick. So once he gets down to 25% here, he's going to teleport a 3rd time. That's no longer how it works on live. On live, he teleports at 66 and 33 instead. And you can see there, because I placed that image of Archmage Vargoth on this side, as soon as he teleported next to it, he broke his channel. You can do this on live still. Racing Flag, image of Archmage Vargoth, Implosion, Hunter Pets, anything like that you can place down, or any pet or entity of any kind that can go next to Archmage Vargoth, or to the Magister Umbric there, will break his Frozen Storm cast. So that can be a useful thing to do. All right, you can see I've made it back to the Cathedral District with an orb to spare. So I'm just going to clear some trash here, open up a couple more of these boxes. Here is that potion. So this is the poison. The guaranteed poison is always next to this dead body. It's the blue one that's guaranteed. So if you download the weak aura that I wasn't actually using at the time of this video, but is in the description, you would see that there was the blue poison there. You would click on the blue button on that weak aura, and then it would fill in all the other roles of the other ones here. I don't know why I'm killing these footmen. Okay, look at the amount of mementos I'm getting out of this run so far. 1759. So these are worth like 2 mementos each, these footmen. Not really much point in fighting them. Now I'm kind of wandering over here, starting the RP. Okay, it looks like I'm trying to get a gift proc into Illyria. I guess that is fair enough. Can work. So you don't have to do that. Like, you can just orb and go into Illyria. I don't know why I'm trying this hard, but you see, okay, I got my gift proc, but I also saw that I was having a horrific figment spawning, and I wanted to have gift and orb into Illyria, and that just didn't work out. I used my Fist of Fury to try and get that to happen faster. Now I'm not gonna have Fist of Fury on the opener. Because I used Fist of Fury, I got to stay in combat for a little while longer, and the end result of all my effort was like 2 seconds of Gift of the Titans onto Illyria. So really not anything insane. Again, this is actually a fight that's received a couple of little nerfs as well since the time of this video. Nothing that you'll see in this video because I avoided the mechanics that got nerfed, but Darkened Sky, this cast here, has been dropped down to 40 base sanity drain instead of 60. So it's a little bit less punishing if you get hit by it, especially if you get hit by multiple swirlies on that mechanic, but it's still about the same. Chains of Servitude also got changed to only cast once per fight, but I think that I may have DPS'd her hard enough here that she will only cast 1 on this pull as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. We'll see. Illyria is a little bit weird. If you do enough damage, she can do some weird spell queuing stuff. And here one of the nice things about Windwalker actually in Horrific Visions is that you have a ton of burst with your, especially if you play Blood of the Enemy. That's one of the reasons I really like Blood of the Enemy in this content for Windwalker is that it really helps your single target burst, and it's still effective in AoE pulls as well if you need it for that. So I would advise using that essence if you have it for Windwalker. I don't really like it for most other specs. Like I prefer Focusing Iris or Purification Protocol for a lot of the other ones. But for Windwalker in particular, I've found Blood of the Enemy to be really good. Protocol is actually really nice on a lot of spots too. One thing to kind of always keep in mind is that single target is often the hardest part of a 5-mask run rather than AoE. So making some small choices to optimize for that is a good way forward. Anyways, that's the 5-mask clear all finished. Lyria goes down. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it has helped you maybe learn a thing or two about Horrific Visions. Unfortunately, no corrupted item there because I'm never lucky. And if you did like this video, remember to like and subscribe. Check out my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Dratnos. Let me see if I... Okay, there's another minute in this video, so let's see if I might show you my tech tree here. I think I had almost all the tech tree at this point, but hopefully we go find out. Yeah, we're gonna... Okay. So I didn't have the group res, and I only had 2 points in that, so I had almost a full tech tree at this point, but not quite full. Anyways, that's been Full Clear 5-mask Horrific Vision of Stormwind. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.